Okay, so have you ever had Chinese food? Have you ever enjoyed a slice of pizza? Give it back. You can't have food from other cultures.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're tuning in. My name is Jonathan Torres Herrera, and you are watching or listening to the JTH show. Today, we're going to talk about culture appropriation or appreciation. Roll the intro. All right. So, a couple days ago, I came across a tweet by Ernest Owens. And it's around, I'm not sure if you saw it already, either on Instagram or on Facebook. I happen to see this on Twitter. And it's about Adele. An artist, which, by the way, in my opinion, is really not promoting anything out there like a new album or a book or something like that. Not that I know of. Yet, we have yet again seen her in the media because of something she did. Some time back, it was because of that picture that she had lost all that weight, and there was like a week's long worth of content out there. I didn't make anything about it because I didn't think anything of it. It was just a person that got in great shape. And you had all these people bashing her at the time, whether you thought it was great that she got in shape, or, oh my God, I wonder if her voice sounds the same, and to some extent bashing her almost for losing all that weight. But anyways, she's here back in the news, right? Or back in the mouths of these journalists, one of them being Ernest Owens, because she went to a festival that happens every year. She is, if you remember, from London, and it sounds like this festival that happens, right, to celebrate Caribbean culture, happens every year, and she partakes. Now, I don't know if she partakes regularly, but she definitely attended this year, even if it was a more virtual celebration in comparison to what happens every year with like huge crowds and stuff like that, obviously because of what's happening with the pandemic. But the point of it is that there was a picture that was shared on Instagram and then obviously tweeted here by this journalist who, here, I'll just put it up here now. It reads, "If 2020 couldn't get any more bizarre, Adele is giving us Bantu knots and culture appropriation that nobody asked for. This officially marks all of the top white women in pop as problematic. Hate to see it." Right, and it's a picture of Adele, right, wearing what appears to bother this journalist, a hairstyle called a Bantu knot, I guess. He's singling this out as culture appropriation. Excuse me. Now, for some of you guys that don't know what that means, essentially is when you take, and by the way, there are other people that have different definitions, so, be aware of that. But what I found, at least on a Google search, is, culture that is more dominant, taking, something away from a culture, that is maybe not as dominant, that is, a minority culture, you might say, and then taking maybe some of their elements as theirs, which is not what's happening here, in my opinion. Right now, there's a whole bunch of other examples I'm going to bring up here in just a second. But along with this tweet, right, he got, I would say, a lot more dislikes and people commenting saying, "What are you talking about?" than people that actually supported the, his claim that, nobody asked for this, Adele, I don't know, kind of putting her down for this, right, for wearing a hairstyle. Some of the tweets that I was able to find, I'm going to show them up here, or show them here for you now, is an example, somebody that said, "There is a fine line of hypocrisy in the world of women's hair." All right, it shows a picture of Beyonce with blonde hair, and of course Adele next to her. Here's another one. Dominique Samuels says, "Why are Americans so damn annoying?" That one stood out to me because, by the way, Ernest Owens is actually an American journalist. And then another one is also at Ernest Owens. It's Nashax. She writes, "Americans need to understand. Every black culture is not American black culture. Stop trying to counter her. Right, again, there was a whole bunch of other tweets that I found that that I was like, okay, great. At least this is not something that it has a significance of agreement when it comes to this cultural appropriation that Ernest is claiming Adele is doing. Now, the video doesn't end here, of course. Like I said, I have other examples that I do want to bring up because I believe that to a certain extent, it's not just happening with hairstyles, right? So let me roll a clip real quick of a TikTok video that I found of a young guy that does mainly on TikTok. He mainly does like recipe videos. So let's roll that clip now.
Okay, so have you ever had Chinese food? Have you ever enjoyed a slice of pizza? Give it back. You can't have food from other cultures. In all seriousness, cultural appropriation is an actual problem in the food world, but that's not what my video was. I would love to hear other perspectives, but this is how I understand cultural appropriation in food. If I had said, I just invented these new corn pancakes, they're delicious and I invented them. And then people are like, no, those are arepas, you did not invent that, we've been making that for thousands of years. That is cultural appropriation because I'm taking credit for something that's already been done and probably doing it worse. Or like when magazines say like, turmeric is this new ingredient. And South Asian people are like, we've been using that for thousands of years. But making a Venezuelan dish that was taught to me by my Venezuelan friends is simply not cultural appropriation. It's just making food that's different than my own culture. And how boring would it be if we could only cook our own food? Okay,
so as you saw there in that video, the guy, is kind of like at the beginning showing, hey, I did this dish, and then I quickly jumped through the video that actually concerned me, or at least the one that I caught my eye, which is him responding to a comment of somebody saying, can we have this back, whatever, their culture back. It's one of those things that currently is happening that is mixed in to this whole cancel slash defend whatever culture you're trying to get behind, and it's all because of people taking it. That, in my opinion, is ridiculous. Now, to be fair, a big incident that happened again with cultural appropriation happened back in 2018. If you remember, there was that story about the girl that had the prom dress, where it was an Asian dress, and it went viral, right? Because she went to prom with this dress that appropriated the Asian culture. In my opinion, what's happening here is people are, one, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree at this point, hopefully, are getting defensive over anything and everything. I mean, as you saw some of the tweets that I shared, right? Some people are saying, hey, if you're going to take offense, don't speak for everybody, first of all. And, people are outright calling us Americans, right, annoying, because it is happening mainly here in the U.S., right? Does it happen anywhere else where somebody in the UK and maybe China, in Africa, in Australia is getting offended over some other culture using something that belongs to them somehow? And belongs, I use that term very loosely. Sure, maybe. I guess it could happen, yes. But you commonly see it where? Here in the U.S. Specifically from those groups that, in my opinion, are either bored or simply just want to cause some kind of viral tweet to point something that offends them. And it's getting ridiculous. And it has been ridiculous for some time. Where you're gonna speak, first of all, you're gonna dare speak on behalf of an entire group of individuals. Second of all, you're gonna say so person can use this because it belongs to us. Where does that ring a bell? Think about it. What is specifically right now in the current landscape, right? Is being thrown around very loosely against white individuals that, example, support Trump. They're what? Oh, that's right. They're these white supremacists, right? That they believe that their culture is better, that nobody should borrow or use anything from their culture. Now, before you tell me, well, JT, white people, they don't have anything. See, All right, get off that mentality. Okay? Get off that mentality. Because it's exactly what this whole thing's about. Right? Is that the white supremacists, the group that believes that you or I that are not white, and I'm not sure if actually you're white, I shouldn't say you, but any of us that are not white, rather, shouldn't use or think about or do anything to do with the white culture. That the white culture is better. Keep your non-white hands or fingers out of our stuff. Isn't that to a certain extent what some people rather are doing? Right? By saying you that are not of this culture don't use anything that belongs to us. And for that matter, like that kid said, right? When it comes to anybody coming out and saying, "Oh, look at this new ingredient," he used tamarack as one example. It's brand new. And, you obviously have certain cultures that can say, "Oh, actually, we've been using that for, hundreds of thousands of years or something like that," right? For a long time. It's like, okay, that's just someone that probably is not educated enough in what has been out there for some time, and it's not new. Same thing if somebody came up with, the Bantu knot and said, "Oh, look at this new hairstyle," which, by the way, Adele didn't do, right? You can say, "Hey, what are you doing? That's wrong. That's dead wrong for you to be able to, go out there and claim that something is new or you came up with something." So at that point, I would totally side with maybe somebody yelling like this earnest guy, right? Not doing just, by the way, to his name. No, that joke. No, okay, never mind. Saying, "Hey, she's appropriating." And Adele didn't come out and say, "Oh, look at this new hairstyle I came up with." No. She came out, if anything, with a whole wardrobe that goes, almost hand in hand with the celebration she's attending, right? And it's really, in my opinion, what the point of this video is here. I would say a lot of the things, that most people do when it comes to the food, clothing, hairstyles, it's either A, because they feel comfortable, using it, wearing it, eating it. Or if anything, if you have to see it as either appropriating or appreciating, it's appreciating, right? I've known a lot of individuals within my own culture, within the Latino Mexican culture, that's like, "I don't like guac. I don't like big sombreros. I don't like Mexican music." So what? So they don't have to like it, right? That's perfectly fine. I've known a lot of people that are like, I'm in love with the Italian culture. And it's like, okay, it's fine. And, they're maybe Mexican or something. Who cares? Does that mean that they're appropriating the Italian culture or they're abandoning their own culture? No, it doesn't. First of all, at the end of the day, if we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, man, a lot of us, some of you guys may know this because I did it with I posted it online. But many of us are a mixed bag of a lot of different backgrounds, right? Based on our DNA. Now, if it's strictly up with the culture that you grew up with, I grew up in the U.S., which is everybody, or not everybody, but many people say it's the melting pot of the world, right? So I grew up with Black culture around me, Indian culture, obviously the Latino culture. And I grew up with many people that were white around me. I now have, grown up to work, moved to areas where the Latino culture, the Mexican culture is not the dominating culture. And I've adopted things that I feel work for me, right? Am I appropriating them? No. And if somebody that I've met in the past, I was like, I really like the way you guys do this. Whatever it is, like use Pine Sol or Fabuloso to clean the whole damn house. Oh, they're appropriating us. It's getting ridiculous. I know you might say like, "Well, JT, I think now you're going too too far to the left or whatever, to the right." And we're talking about strictly clothing here, and we're talking about strictly hairstyles. Stop. When I talk about clothing, you know how many clothing brands out there wouldn't be nowhere near what they are today if it wasn't for multi cultures accepting, embracing, and using their clothing. Here's an example. For those of you who grew up, along with me in the years of, let's just say, the early 2000s in high school. Do you remember all the little, Latino kids using brands like FUBU and Echo? Yeah. Do you know who the owners of those brands are? Right? I remember that. I wore it. It was cool. Everybody wanted to look like Lil Jon. Who cares? And I remember seeing white kids use them. I remember seeing Asian kids use them. What does that matter? And again, when it comes to like something as ridiculous, especially nowadays, by the way, something as ridiculous as Ernest Owen saying, putting out Adele as saying like, oh, look at this person taking things away. What really bugged me about that tweet? Him saying, this officially marks all of the top white women in pop as problematic. All? So all the white women are problematic. What are you doing? What kind of division are you trying to instill on your viewers that are maybe following you? I don't follow this freaking nutcase. I don't care that he's, a successful journalist. I'm of a strong opinion that people that sometimes get too high up on their pedestal, start seeing down on people instead of seeing face to face and really hearing conversations that matter. Right? So him from his pedestal, it's like speaking to his crowd of obviously non-white people, right? And bashing down on this white artist that all the white women in pop are problematic. So he didn't effectively just target her. With that, he's targeting everybody. And this is a clear example of what people do when it comes to what's happening now in society, which is immediately labeling an entire group, right, as a problem. It's not going to get better until we have some kind of major reset. And I'm going to talk about that in a future video that's going to come up here, hopefully in the next few days, of what is going to exactly happen with all these riots and protests. How is that really going to end? I strongly believe that it will be some massive reset. What is that? What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe I'll explain it. You have to watch that video. But anyways, guys, that's it for this one. I just want to share my thoughts on people saying that, appropriation. I don't believe appropriation is a thing. Unless, like I said, someone's like, oh, I came up with this new thing. And, clearly it's something that's been around for a long time in other cultures or something, right? But other than that, those examples, appropriation is a joke to say that anybody, again, especially if you are in any of the heavily diverse areas in the United States, that appropriation can be a thing. It makes no sense. All right. Cool. Thank you for watching. As always, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you don't mind, ring that notification. It really helps. Share the videos. And until next time, see ya.